welcome to the first episode of The Lazy Show. I'm going to be one of the hosts here, Alex Mexicot, and I've got our first guest here, Nick White, CEO or COO at Celestia. How's it going, Nick?
Good. It's a lazy morning for me over here, so I'm excited to record with you and dive into the world of applications for once instead of infrastructure.
Yeah. So I think that's a good segue into why this show really exists. I want to first preface this is going to be different than a lot of the other shows that you might have listened to that are very technical and infrastructure focused. And while we're going to still try to bring on a lot of the people who you'll see and recognize from those shows, we want to flip the script and talk more about the application side, because a big piece of feedback that people consistently bring up over multiple crypto cycles has been that there aren't enough apps in the space. And the thing is that there are actually some cool apps out there. And I think one of the big problems right now is that people don't know that they even exist, or if they do exist, they're so new, the concepts are so new that they don't necessarily know what to do with them. So the main focus of this show is going to be highlighting the apps that are built in some of these ecosystems that you might be familiar with, and bringing on some of these kind of crypto OGs who can share some of these applications that are built in these ecosystems and why they love them so much. So that's going to be the real main focus of the show. The other thing that's going to be a little bit different in this first season is think of it more of like a series of pilot episodes or MVPs of episodes. We're going to trim back a lot of the fat. Production value will be basically bare minimum. But what I hope that comes across in some of these episodes is the vibe that we're hoping to bring here, and a lot of the applications, and the value really there is sharing a bunch of these different applications. So that's what you can expect to see today. And honored to have Nick here as the first guest on the episode to hear what's going on in the Celestia ecosystem building out there. So with that, let's dive in and get started. I'm actually going to share screen because as soon as I was talking to Paco and the Celestine Sloth community or society here, immediately he knew one of the apps that you were going to suggest here was Pay, and he was absolutely right. So I'm going to share this. This is a mobile app. Cool. So Nick, what is it that you love so much about this app?
Well, really, where you should start is actually the onboarding, which I guess would be hard to demo, but imagine you've never used crypto before. And, typically when you're, let's say you're signing up with another wallet, let's say Coinbase wallet or whatever, you go to the App Store, you download it to your phone, you open it up, and then there's this like lengthy onboarding process essentially where it's like, oh, you've never used crypto before. By the way, here's all this confusing stuff. Here's a, 12-word seed phrase that you need to save down. Otherwise, you're going to lose all your money and you're screwed forever. And write it down. Okay, now have you written it down? Okay, now enter it back in. Okay, now you can finally use the app. And I think that's just a massive. Then it's also like, okay, well, now if you want to onboard money or any crypto, you have to go to this exchange, sign up there, put your money in there, and then finally figure out how to withdraw the money to this like new wallet that you had that you've never seen before. Copy and paste these, strings of hexadecimal text and things like that. That just totally. I mean, if you think about my mom or any like normal person who's just not very like tech savvy or does not know about crypto, you're going to lose like 99% of them in that sign up process, unless there's some like really juicy reward at the other end, like meme coins, you're going to make 100x or something. So the cool thing about Pay is that it was the smoothest onboarding experience I've ever had to any crypto app, where you just download the app, you open it. There's never ever a page where you're like faced with this seed phrase confusing thing.
Yeah.
And then it's just actually, so what's happening in the background is they have an embedded wallet that uses like Apple passkeys and iCloud backup and all these things in the background, so that like your private key is like stored in a really secure way with a backup. Obviously it's not as secure as like a cold wallet right? But it's extremely secure, and the ease of use is like, it's literally like using a normal, Web 2 app. In fact, maybe even easier because you don't even have to go through the like email sign-in process. It's just open it and you're good. And then if you want to deposit, and this is maybe where you can start to demo this. Let's see if this works for you. You want to deposit, you go to Apple Pay, and just, choose however much you want to deposit. Pay with Face ID. And seriously, like within 10 to 15 seconds, you're going to have payment failed.
Yeah, let's see. Let's try again.
Maybe try a different card. If you don't have a different card. Anyway, I've never had this problem. It could be for some reason that this specific card doesn't want to play nice with Pay. Who knows?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, try a different one. Let's go. Yeah.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
now go to
There
your
it
wallet.
is. Easy.
Pending, and then pretty soon it should pop up. Okay, so
Yeah,
imagine.
pretty much immediate.
Yeah, so what we've done, what Pay has done is compressed this extremely long and laborious, onboarding and like sign up and onboarding process to like get funds into this app from like, honestly, probably like an hour or more, especially if you think about the fact that if I've really never used crypto before, I need to sign up with an exchange, do KYC. It could even take a day because I have to wait for KYC to pass or whatever. And then I have to wire money into that thing, right? And whatever else.
Yeah.
Now it's seriously like it can be done in under a minute, including the time that it takes to download the app itself. And so that is just absolutely huge. And so I don't know, we could just stop there and kind of like unpack that. But that's the future of how like crypto onboarding should be. And we've just gotten conditioned to the fact that like crypto is like this like gated like this gated community where it's like it's so hard to get in and onboard yourself and to get funds into this new realm. Once you're there, it's actually pretty seamless. Like, anyone who's done sent stable coins, yeah, sure, you might have to copy and paste text, and it's a little scary because if you text, you might copy it wrong, you might pay the wrong person or something like that. So there's a lot of like fear, but like anyone who's ever used just a stablecoin payment just through MetaMask or any wallet knows how fast and easy it is compared to sending a bank wire or a transfer or whatever.
Right.
Totally like borderless, instant, all those things. But then like the process of getting someone to the stage where they can actually use a blockchain for stablecoin payments has been the real barrier. Like once you're in, it's always been relatively good. And so I think solving this onboarding problem is just huge. And I've seen it in person. I've been able to onboard not just crypto native people, but a lot of non-crypto native people to this app. And they've never used crypto before. I mean, they may have like bought Ethereum or Bitcoin or something like that, but they've never actually tried to use crypto. And it's huge. Like this is how we open the floodgates to, millions of people being able to sign up overnight and actually have this like true, viral growth of the technology.
Mm-hmm. And actually, like I remember in Bangkok, Batu, he onboarded someone from a coffee shop.
Oh, really?
Which I thought was very funny.
That's so cool. Like to pay to settle his bill or just a random person. Yeah.
I think if there was like an issue with cards, or like I don't remember what was the exact issue, but he was like, "Hey, you should download Pay," and like it was just pretty funny. I think there's a video of that even. So yeah, I'll try to find it, guys.
Yeah, there's a few lessons here, right? From an application builder standpoint, it's like this is a masterclass in what the UX should look like. And I totally agree, Nick, is that we've gotten so deep into building apps for other crypto native people that you start to get desensitized to what good UX actually is.
Totally.
So you make all these assumptions like, oh yeah, just bring MetaMask, and it's as soon as you get to that, it's like pump the brakes, because MetaMask is not a great experience at all to onboard. And I think for a lot of these apps, it's like when you're only strong as your weakest link, and if you're requiring one of these third-party wallets that are already making all these assumptions about your ability to create that and sign in, it's like you're dead on arrival. And I think that's partially why people complain so much about there not being many apps, is if you have to bring your own wallet, it immediately becomes a huge barrier. Whereas with Pay, it sounds like you're connecting to something traditional like Apple Pay, and you've immediately extrapolated away all of that complexity. That's what good UX looks like. I got the same feeling when I signed up. I'm like, I could immediately replace Venmo with this for many reasons, right? With the next years, like they're just saying they're going to be more and more scrutinizing Venmo and taxing those transactions when those aren't even necessarily taxable transactions that are happening in there. A lot of times my wife and I will just send money back and forth for accounting purposes. It's like, that should not be taxable. And now that's getting a ton of visibility. It's like, now you can actually use crypto rails to do the exact same thing and have a little bit of privacy behind it. And it's not so many eyes on it. And unless you're just totally bought into the social aspect of Venmo, which I think is stupid anyway, maybe there's other people who think the same. This is immediately a very frictionless transition, at least for me, to move to something on crypto rails and has immediate value. And I love how stupid simple the UI is, where there's just a few tabs. I'm not overwhelmed by text. Just being able to request and send is so straightforward and clean. Like, that to me is what these apps should really look like. And that's a interesting story, Paco, of like, if you can onboard someone in literally minutes on the fly, it's like, that is a good indication that they're doing something right.
Yeah, it'd be interesting actually to compare. I mean, it's been so long since I've onboarded on Venmo. I wonder if it's possible that this is actually a faster onboarding process, than Venmo. It'd be kind of cool to see that, because you probably do have to sign up with your email. I actually hate that. Like, I have to create a fucking new password every time, and then you probably. Yeah. I wonder if Venmo has any kind of KYC. I don't remember. I feel like they do. Then you have to link your bank
either.
Account. Probably.
I just remember every time I go back into Venmo, there's an insane amount of noise in there. I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on. Not to mention, it constantly loses connection with my bank account, which is not even something I have to worry about here. This is through Apple Pay. So there's just a usability piece of friction there where it's like, it's not like Venmo is a perfect experience. And with how easy this is, it's not going to take a lot of friction to move. It's super accessible.
Yeah, and then there's two other things that we can go down this rabbit hole. But one thing is, it's not just that this is like easier and faster than that it's private. So another thing that the audience should know is that Pay is completely private by default. So every time you're sending, and we should demo this in a sec. But every time you generate a payment, it is like a ZK proof that you generate on your phone, and then you can send it to someone and they can claim those funds. But it doesn't leak any information to anyone else about who's paying who and how much. And it's based on like a similar model to the way that Zcash works. So anyway, that is one selling point, obviously. In Venmo, you can switch the private thing on, but there's some like global overlord view that knows everything.
Yeah.
And then, but the real thing that I think is so powerful, right? And this is why stablecoin payments are so useful to me, is that it's just global. So, for example, I was on a trip in Europe this summer with some friends, and everyone was from different countries, right? And at the end of the day, we were all like sharing meals, and like some people had to pay for like a boating excursion, or someone paid for someone's hotels or whatever. And at the end, we had to settle everything. We had this big splitwise, right? And then everyone owed everyone else like a few $100s, but like, how do you settle this bill when this person is in Dubai, this person's in London, this person's has a US bank account, and like I have no way, like Venmo doesn't talk to those people if they don't have a US bank account, right? Pay doesn't care where you're based. It is just an internet native application, and you can send money to whoever, wherever, instantly. And there aren't these sort of like arbitrary boundaries, right? And I think that's another part of this that's so powerful, and we shouldn't underestimate. And that's what makes me think that like these internet native applications will eventually just sort of like come to dominate, because like it's not a walled garden. It doesn't limit its own growth because of like the regulation or I don't know, geography.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a better user experience too, for that same reason.
Yeah. And now I'm wondering if like I could actually send something to someone who doesn't have this app, and they could very easily claim it by downloading this pretty much instantly and it just sending it straight to the app. And now they can use that app to send it to someone else. That I think would be a really interesting way. Getting into one of our next apps is like you kind of like infect someone with this app of like, in order to claim this, you have to download it, and the download experience is so simple, and the integration is only with Apple Pay. There's really no security risks there, and then you can immediately use that money however you want. I then it gets into like, how can you easily use something like Pay to have cash be sitting in this app and use it to buy coffee? Like that's where it just becomes seamless in your everyday life.
So it's actually the path to get there is extremely straightforward as well. So why don't we actually demo really quick generating a payment or even a request, so people can see. But basically, what you could do is so in China, for example, so much of payments, like everything is mobile payments. They pretty much don't use cash anymore, and specifically on like WeChat and stuff. Like vendors just like all they do is like, okay, they add up your bill. They don't have like this like Square or I don't know. There's all these point of sale systems that we have in the US that I feel like China just like leapfrogged basically. And they just generate a QR code on their phone and you scan it and you like, accept it. It does a Face ID or whatever and sends the payment. And that's exactly the kind of UX that Pay already has. You can just generate a payment request, QR code, or link and send it to someone, and then they can approve it. Or vice versa. You can just like generate the payment you want to give to someone and send it as a link or a QR code. And so like you can imagine a world, I don't know if there's like regulations against this in the US or wherever, but you can imagine a world where people are just completely bypassing the traditional financial rails. Like you're checking out of the coffee shop and the person at the counter is just like, okay, yeah, $5, boom. And then you scan it, and then like 2 seconds later, you've sent the money, and it's all done. And so I can really see this being adopted in that way. The part that I don't know is like, are there regulations like that prevent this from happening? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
but try generate.
Yeah. It's just really quick question. The way Square works, is that like the traditional 3% fee, like the credit cards and things?
Yes, that's another.
So immediate lifting of that fee.
Yeah, well, it's so funny. I mean, I literally just on Sunday, I went and I bought something from these lei in Hawaii for like an occasion, and it's like a vendor in Chinatown with like. It's like a small hole in the wall shop, right? And like a lot of these places, they're like, they don't even have the point of sale system right there. They don't like advertise that they have it. And I was like, oh, are you guys cash only? And they're like, well, we do have credit card, but if you want to pay with credit card, there's like a additional fee of however many percent or whatever. And it totally makes sense because like the margins on these businesses are so small that like taking cash and not having to pay the credit card company, like actually, even though it's, you only think 3%, how big can that be? But if your margin is only like a few percent in total, like instantly it's like doubled like the profit margin essentially. And so the cool thing about Pay and like these crypto payment apps in general is that like Pay is literally just like cash. There's no fee. It's just like, and it is like cash also in the privacy aspect. And so I feel like we're going to return to more of like a cash-based payment system.
Man, that's exciting.
For these things. I think that's like extremely bullish for retail.
Yeah. And the big criticism has been that like, everything on crypto is actually public. It's a public ledger. But then now you have actual ZK tech being used in a way that can actually privacy preserve by making it digital cash. So now you have the best of both worlds. You have the flexibility of digital with the privacy of cash. And I'm hoping it stays that way. I hope that access stays that way, because I know one of the exciting things for governments of these crypto rails is that they create their CBDCs and then everything is going through there. So
so I'm
hoping it stays that way.
Let's demo this right now, because I want the audience listeners to like understand what we mean. Like, so why don't you, if you generate a payment, I'm going to scan it on my side and claim it. And the reason I want to do this is like, okay, so however much you want to pay me, you can be generous if you want. Oh man, only $1. Just kidding.
Do it fees free.
Do it via QR. Do it via QR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So obviously, so now it's scanning your Face ID. So it's all, you're actually like, it's making sure that it's actually you trying to pay this. Okay. So before I scan this QR code is actually cash. Like what you just did is you generated cash, like a digital form of cash, just now using a ZK proof on your phone. And now anyone, it's not like the fact that I see this first means that I'm gonna be the person to be able to claim it. But it is literally anyone that with this information, this set of information that you just generated, can claim this money. Like that is the actual money, which is pretty crazy if you think about it.
So I guess we can't do a live show in the future.
No, you can. This. I mean, I've it's really fun. I mean, one of the best parts about Pay is it's super fun to demo. So I'm claiming it now. I just scanned it. And by the way, from what I understand, like they are, I was at $29. I think I'm at $30 now.
Yep, I sent it.
Yeah, it says claim payment on my end. Anyway, my understanding too is that like for now, generating the ZK proof takes like, I don't know, 5 or 6 seconds or something. Now I think they're going to improve that dramatically. It's going to be like a 1 or 2 seconds to generate the payments and stuff like that. Anyway, it's cool. Like and the other reason that I love Pay is if you go back to the very early original visions of what blockchain and crypto was all supposed to be about, if especially even like Bitcoin, like the original vision for Bitcoin was like digital cash. And like, obviously that never played out for Bitcoin for a lot of different reasons. There was no embedded wallets or onboarding back then. It was a pain in the ass. There's no, Apple Pay to like onboard with crypto stable. There was no stable coins, so it was like volatile. The payments were super slow, like literally, an hour to fully settle. The
capital
transaction volume throughput.
Yeah,
you also, you could only do however many transactions per second. There's no way, there's just so many reasons why that product would never work at so many stages and levels as like a, actual like payment app. But now, like, 15 years down the line since when Bitcoin was, first created, it's very viable. Like I feel like all those like intermediate problems have mostly been solved, and now we can build things like Pay that actually could deliver on this original, like the core use case. And going back to what you said about people being frustrated about there's no applications, I actually think there's so many low-hanging fruit applications for crypto that we just forgot about and we gave up on because they didn't work. Like people tried them so many times and they just never worked. Every time it just failed over and over again. And I think it's because like you had to have all these things had to line up and be in a good place for it to work. If any one of them did not hit, it was going to fail. And I think we're only just now at that place where like all these problems have been solved to a degree that makes it possible. And so like payments is the most obvious number one mass adoption use case for crypto. Anyone who's ever sent a stablecoin payment knows that. It's like you never want to use a bank again. like what the hell is it? Why should banks exist at all? Like why can't I just have all my own money and just send it whenever I want 24/7 to whoever in the world, like a text message? Why should I have to wait and only send it during banking hours? Why should I have to wait a full day for it to for a wire to go through, or 2 to 3 days for ACH? It makes no sense.
Yeah. I've got a buddy who, speaking of like bank transfers, he started a group, we'll call it a DAO, just focusing on remittances, because he worked for 10 years as a teacher in all throughout Southeast Asia. And one thing that just put a pit in his stomach is every Sunday, which is the only day off that a lot of these people get, they would spend half their day in line at a Western Union to pay exorbitant fees to send money across countries to family members. And that's how they would spend their Sunday. And his whole the whole point of this thing was to basically educate a lot of these people on alternative methods, some crypto, some non-crypto, on ways to actually send money with lower fees and obviously much easier. And it was basically an education piece. And I want to send this to him now that I know that this exists, as this solves basically all of those. You can work with cash, right? And there are certain assumptions that you still have to take into account when it comes to other markets, right? Like I'm using Apple Pay, so in that sense, it's like I need an iPhone, right? What are those different assumptions? But I completely agree for if there are founders listening to this, it becomes what are some use cases that were discounted as that's too late, people are doing that you can revisit now that you have interesting tech that works better at this point. I think ZK is one of those things that is a huge UX improvement. Account abstraction and chain abstraction is going to increasingly get that way with Intents, where you can now create some of these apps that people are overlooking with a much, much better UX now at this point. And it's enticing to look at all these sexier experimental use cases. We'll get into some of those as well next with some of these other apps that are interesting. But I wouldn't shy away from looking at these basic use cases because, like you said, this is the no-brainer use case for crypto is cross-border payments. And right now, basically having digital cash. I'm excited to see what other things pop up with using some of that interesting tech on the back end that improves the UX. So
I just want to say a few more things about Pay. Too. One is that the reality is that like Venmo, like, if you live in the developed world and you have Venmo or you have Revolut or whatever, you might not feel the pain points as dramatically for like being able to send. Like Venmo works mostly well enough in my life, day-to-day life to be fine. And it's only because I guess I'm like interested in this technology that I like try to onboard people and demonstrate it to them. But then there's a whole group of people who live in Nigeria or they live in Argentina or wherever, and they don't have access to like a stable currency. They want to just hold US dollars. They'd much rather transact in denominated in US dollars. And the crazy thing about Pay is that it kind of it gives them that opportunity. All they need now is and before like there was just no way for them to do that. And now they just need an internet connection and a smartphone. And now they can like save money in US dollars. They can transact. And frankly, this also gets into this idea that Celestia is all about, which is unstoppable applications. Even if the government is like in their respective country is like, hey, you guys, we're going to put in capital controls, or like we're going to make it illegal to hold cash. It's like, how are they going to do that? It's like, I mean, maybe you could try to ban the Pay app. I don't know, but like literally, it's just an internet connection and a smartphone. And it's like, okay, you're gonna like shut down the internet, or you're gonna take away our phone? Like, right. Good luck. Like, and we can just send money between each other, peer to peer, with no one sitting in the middle that's gonna be able to shut us down. And that's an extremely powerful, really powerful, life-changing thing. Like to us, it just seems like a slightly better Venmo, but to these people in these places, like it can seriously change their lives and make their lives dramatically better and help them escape from a government that is constantly debasing their currency and taxing them in invisible ways. And now they have the power to like opt out of that system. And like, that's huge. So anyway, I think like only talking about Pay as a better Venmo is really selling it short. And, so I'm excited to see it grow, and I do think probably they'll probably experience the most growth in these kind of countries initially.
Yeah, that's overlooked, honestly. I think the stablecoin use case for a while eluded me for that exact reason, is I wasn't in an area where I could really see the value of it with a relatively stable currency. But You talk to people from Argentina, especially Zimbabwe, Nigeria. A lot of them immediately saw the use case, and you can see it from the adoption numbers of the amount of people who hold crypto. So keeping that in mind is like, got to think more globally on the potential user base here than just US based, which I think is a huge bias in crypto right now. So really good point. Do you know much about the rewards section here, or if this is a TBD thing?
I wish I did. All I know. Let's see. What is my? Wait, it used to actually show you your rewards like right on the. Oh, I have 6,000 points, which I don't know if that's good or bad.
For the G-Gens, yeah, it's like for the G-Gens out there, that might be an interesting thing to look into. Is you're not only taking advantage of the app, but there could be some rewards based things from using this. But the way I'm thinking about this now, I'm just getting excited both from the business standpoint and just even talking to my wife about this. How do you start to use this in your day-to-day life? This seems super accessible. This doesn't take much context to really grasp the value here, and so
yep.
I'm gonna be a disciple. I can see why this was your first choice.
I'm pretty sure you can get points by sending money to someone who's never used the app before.
Got it.
So like by onboarding people. So there is a little bit of this like, reference, like code type thing. Although I'm sure that they find a way to preserve the privacy there. They're also doing some kind of cool differential privacy stuff in the back end, which I don't know too much about.
Yeah, also like fun fact, I think C-Node and Jacob are like one of the top people in points, which I always find very funny. All the time they're like, yeah, I have a lot of points, and I'm like, nice.
Do you know how much points? How many points they have?
I don't know, but I know Jacob onboarded me, so I guess I gave him points. So
all right, well, game, the game is on. We gotta make this a real competition.
Make it a competition.
Yeah. LFG, lazy FG.
All right, I've got another one here that I think in this one we're going to discover it together here. We're figuring it out. So you had Pay, which is like more of this very specific problem that it's addressing, very utility based type of app. This is on the opposite end of that spectrum. Like this is essentially a social game. So this is Kudzu. This is built on top of Forma. And I don't know, Paco, if you want to talk a little bit about it. It sounds like the Sloths community has been playing around with this different game, and it's a way to basically coordinate and build teams around something. And then you can see here there's a prize pool where the winners essentially split that pool. Can you give a little bit of a TLDR from what you're aware of on this?
Oh, wait. Yeah, sorry guys. I know why my mic wasn't working, but yeah. So I actually found out about this in the Sloth Discord, and I saw some people were talking about it. They're basically like assembling a team to try to like make it to the top of the rank. But yeah, I think it's kind of like a viral game, like quite literally, in which you basically have to like sort of like infect your friends, and like then they can't infect others to like get more points, and then it's like a sort of like big like pyramid of points kind of. But I don't know, it seems pretty interesting. I'm like a big fan of on-chain games in general. I like, fun fact, I've been playing I've been on on-chain games for a while, so like I think this was like pretty interesting to see something like this happening in like the ecosystem, and like seeing like a lot of people in the community like excited about it. Personally, I haven't had the chance to play it like just yet, but it's sort of like on my bucket list as well, of like things to try like on chain for the week. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm pulling down the rules here, and this is kind of cool. You can actually, in the effort of UX, you can actually toggle the type of language that they use to be more to crypto native or not. So here's the crypto native language: is airdropping, basically. Because you airdrop this thing to people, you infect them, and then it becomes this kind of game of referring people by airdropping them this token. And the biggest waves of infection, I guess, is the way that you actually build this up and win these prize pools. I wonder how the prize pool is actually raised. I think what they're doing here is that 80% of all mint and airdrop fees go to the prize pool, and the rest, I guess, goes to the Kudzu protocol to raise fees, essentially. So yeah, it's basically a social game of airdropping and building up enough of this. Yeah, it's an interesting game. The viralness of the social aspect ends up being its whole marketing tactic, and people are like, what the hell is this? And you get a message from someone like, send this to other people, and it just becomes a referral game, essentially.
Yeah, I'm interested here. So like, you can start your own infection, or you can join someone else's infection. Yeah, so we could, I don't know, let's try. Oh, I see. Per number of coins you can mint, and it's per Tia Celestia. So all right, I'm gonna try this. That's too. How many that you'll mint, basically, and then it'll mint it to your address. I see. So you're starting your own contagion, or you're minting. Yep. Yeah, you're minting a new kudzu. Okay, so each contagion is its own kudzu. I see. Yep, and then you mint it. Let me try this. Let me just mint this. Easy. Minting. Okay, that's minted. I'm viewing them. So I made 2 of them. Let's see. So then send it to me. I'm going to try to get infected. Yeah. Or, do you send a link or... Yep. So it was. I think it was confirming the transaction here. So, it's saying view. Yeah, that might be doing some transaction in the back end before I'm able to look at that. Let me see here. Let me play around with the rest of the site while I am waiting. So, we're still early on UX. Very much so. Yeah. So. If I'm viewing this here, okay, so this must be what it looks like after you mint it, and it has all this information on it, and then a history of. Okay. Maybe you're in a different tab because we're still seeing the mint page, or are you reading that? Oh, you're right. Share this tab instead. You're right. So okay. I basically went here to the ones that were first. Yeah. Okay, I'm understanding this game now. So you are literally just transferring that token over. There's something that's soulbound over here, though. So all tokens are non-transferable soulbound till the end of the cup. So there's something that you're airdropping, and then there's something that's actually soulbound. Once airdropped, your friends can airdrop others for more points. Maybe it's... okay, so you have the original kudzu, whatever, I guess it's an NFT or something like that. Then maybe you can pay to infect other people through it, and then they get some coin that they can hold on to that's also soulbound, and then I wonder if they can spread it from themselves. Yeah. Or... That's the part that I am... Because I don't think that you're transferring the actual... original coin or NFT or whatever. It's like that once you have it, you have the power to like maybe pay a fee to spread it to someone new or something. I'm not sure. Right. Let me see here. So I mean I'm clicking on the minted view your kudzus. I'm not able to see it just yet. So I don't know if this is delay on chain or something of something, or we're running into a barrier, but yeah, interesting. Look, we'll have to see afterwards, I guess, on once we have this, being able to send it over to someone and just the mechanism through which it sends. But it looks like you're able to keep some kind of soulbound version of it, like you said, and then be able to transfer another one. And by transferring it, you've basically included someone in the game. And these are the images, these kind of standalone images that have gone the furthest.
And I'm guessing the creative aspect here is when you create one, do you have a certain level of autonomy over the image that's created? And if so, you can create more viral type of image where people are like, okay, yeah, I'm going to share this one. Like, what are the strategies involved where you can make it a little bit more viral and get people moving? Or you can just have coordination games. It sounds like from the Sloths community, this might end up being some kind of flex for certain communities to say, look how tight our community is, because we're able to consistently get to the top of the leaderboard and coordinate effectively as a community. And so for some of these other separate NFT communities, it becomes a signal for how tightly integrated their communities are. And I would put my money on Sloss in that regard. They are active as hell. I kind of like that use case for this. It is a signal for how active your community is.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. I know we have one more here that you wanted to talk about, and it is also built on Forma, Modularium. So my smooth brain take here is that this is an NFT marketplace, but I want to hear from you kind of maybe some more
look at the mammoths
of this. I know you got the mammoths up there. That's a nice little easy plug there. So what is it about Modularium that is like, why would someone come here over Magic Eden or OpenSea?
Well, I think that what's so cool about Modularium is it's like the quality of the art. Like it genuinely feels to me, I don't know, like so obviously, you know, NFT, PFP collections are great. Look at Sloths, right? They help to build a community and like shared identity. But there's so much more that you can do on chain, with art on chain, than just like NFTs, like PFP and NFTs, right?
Right.
And I think Modularium has been this space that is sort of seen, I'd say like a renaissance in terms of like much more like avant-garde kind of like, yeah, forward-looking, experimental, like art NFT collections. So one of my, I think the stuff that Sarah Friend did with Screenshot Folder and Prompt Baby. I don't know if you can like scroll down and see some of these things. I mean, some of it's not safe for work, but I mean, I think probably the audience here like, are fairly internet native, so they might not be offended by that. But it's cool. Like Prompt Baby, basically, you could buy the right to. So my understanding is Sarah Friend trained an AI, like a generative AI, on like nude photos of herself, basically, and then you could pay to have the right to prompt that generative AI model, and it would generate an NFT based on that. Now, I don't know if that was like, I don't think there was like verifiability behind that. That would be really cool if you could like verify that like this is actually the output. Maybe that was part of it. But anyway, it's cool just like as a way of like, I don't know, you're interacting with this artist on chain, and it's just extremely creative. It like intersects with crypto and AI in this new way, and it's cool too. Like I like, I think kind of intentionally the AI model that she trained it on is like glitchy, and so like the things that it generates, you can tell are not real.
Right.
And they have all these kind of like weird features of like she has like 4 boobs or something like that. Like, you know, I don't know. It's like
right.
It's pretty interesting. And same with like Screenshot Folder. I think Screenshot Folder's that, except she did the prompts and like it's a set of, you know, ones that she generated herself. That's just one. I also really like. I've been a fan of Sarah Mollejas for a long time, and she did Burn Me. I don't know where. Yeah, Burn Me. And I really love this. Basically, it's a collection. I think you can actually open this one because there's nothing that's not safe for work. But each one of these has like its own like music that goes along with it. I don't know if you open one, I don't know if it's going to play over the thing, but it's like this Daft Punk technologic like adaptation to like all these like crypto native phrases like burn me, rug me, pay me, buy me, that kind of stuff. So anyway, it was just like a very creative art piece that like I've just never seen someone do. And in fact, I think Sarah, by the way, just so people understand the lore, she was one of the first people to like ever mint an NFT actually on Bitcoin. I think kind of before there was even like this idea of NFTs. So she's like really an OG, and also she does amazing art in real life. Yeah, I'm a big fan of her work. So I guess what I'm saying about Forma is that it's this place where I feel like there's like true on-chain art being experimented with,
right?
And it's just like it's cool because I really do feel like we've only scratched the surface of like what you can do with on-chain art. Achilles, who works on the Celestia Labs team, has this whole vision, and there's a whole like group of people talking about like art chains where like it's not just an NFT like a smart contract, but like it is a chain that you interact with that is the art piece, which is I don't know, going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, curated wise, it seems like Modularium here is like I'm getting more of a feel for the vibe, and it's more art focused versus maybe culture focused that I think a lot of like Magic Eden will do for NFT communities. So it's interesting to see the kind of unbundling of OpenSea, where people are like, well, OpenSea does everything. Why would you have another NFT marketplace? But I think the different value of these different marketplaces is they curate a certain vibe, and you go to that marketplace because you know what type of things to expect on that marketplace. And I'm getting a feel for what Modularium is trying to do, is more the artistic side. And the Sarah Friend experimentation actually reminds me of what Grimes was doing on the music side, is you basically approve the AI generation of your IP, and you just share the royalties essentially of any money that you make off of it. It sounds like she's doing that for more image generation, and then actually adding a flavor by saying it's like purposefully not realistic, like she has a certain kind of twist and vibe to the actual generations. So I could see a ton of different derivatives of that being generated from not only image but music, other forms of art. That's what that reminded me of.
Yeah, and given that this is the Lazy Show, we would be remiss not to mention that there were a couple sloth-related mints. One was the Sloth Gang of Athens. Yes, and then there was also this Habitats mint, which I love the Habitats art. So
yeah, so this is I could see myself tuning in. Right, sorry, go ahead, Paco.
No, I actually really like the art too, and I also like so one thing I wanted to say about what you guys were saying as well is like I feel like things like Magic Eden, like they're more of a launchpad, right? But they're not for like actual art. I feel like coming back to like Nick's point, like I feel like Modularium, like they put a lot of, and like Forma, like they put a lot of focus on like getting like really like high quality experimental stuff, and I think it's something that is really nice to see. That it's not just like, okay, it's like another mint and like that's it. It's more of a like, hey, how can we like experiment with this to like make it more viral and also like more cool? Which I think I'm very in favor of. I'm a person that is very in favor of like experimenting, and well, if you fail, you fail. So it's just really like very nice to see. And yeah, actually like Sloth Gang of Athens, like fun fact, that art was actually made by one of the people in our community. His name is Ritz. He's from Turkey, and it was like a free mint. It was pretty cool actually. So
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, I feel like it has like a lot of lore and a lot of things behind it. So it's pretty. I feel like all the art in Modularium is sort of like that, and it's pretty good to see.
Yeah. Well, that's we can end it there, and we're coming up on time. I appreciate you being here, Nick. I personally learned a lot about some of these different apps, and I'm going to be using these afterwards. I hope for the people listening, it's like that you got a little bit of a feel of what to expect on this. What we want to keep doing is sharing apps that you can use today, whether they're on testnet, mainnet, whatever. We want to shine more of a light on the things that are out there, because there are cool things out there. We're at a point now where the tech has passed a certain point where it can actually be used for pretty useful and fun different use cases, and I want to cover a wide range there. We got a little bit of utility, we got a little bit of the fun here. So please share some feedback as you're listening, and thank you, Nick, for being our first guest. I had some fun going through those, learning about them.
Yeah, this is, I think that there's a lot of alpha in just trying things out on chain. You learn like what the actual pain points are for users and where the gaps are, essentially, and you can be early to like realizing when things are actually like hitting escape velocity, and just seeing like where the on-chain world is headed. Like if you're not actually using these things, you're just gonna lose touch with what's actually happening. And so, yeah, more of this.
Apps
please.
Supercycle.
Yeah, that's calibrated my approach as an investor, is actually using the apps myself. And you can very quickly cut through a lot of different hype. As you're starting to use things, you're like, people are going to understand this, especially from the B2C side, from the consumer side. And we're there. We've had a renaissance for the longest time with B2B and the infrastructure side of things, but the consumer apps are here, and they're here to stay, and they're only going to get better. And that's what we'll continue to highlight on this show. So thanks again, Nick, for joining. That was a ton of fun. And thanks everyone for listening in. Expect more of the same on the next episode, and we appreciate your feedback as always. See you on the next one.
Lazy
Super
FG.
Supercycle.
Apps Supercycle.